Stand-up comedian Ali Sultan has appeared on Kevin Hart's Comedy Central show Heart of the City and has recorded his own Comedy Central special in Dubai. The Yemeni American comic joins me to discuss his journey to America and his path to a career in comedy. Welcome, Ali. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Great. So let's watch a clip from one of your sets.
I'm an immigrant. I moved here when I was 15. I had to take ESL classes. And one day my instructor got off tangent and just started talking about the Middle East and 9/11. And then she looked at me, the only Arab kid in the class, and she said, "They hate us because they're jealous of our freedom." And she kept staring and staring and staring. And that made me uncomfortable. And when I'm uncomfortable, I laugh audibly. So I laughed, but I laughed way too hard. It didn't look like it was out of discomfort. It looked like I was plotting against the United States of America. She said, "They hate us because they're jealous of our freedom." And I was like, ha, ha, ha.
Tell me a little bit about your immigration story.
I was born in Sana'a, Yemen. Lived there the first 9 or 10 years of my life. Then my mother began immigrating to America. And then I was put with my aunt who lived in Ethiopia until, her immigration process allowed her to apply for us, me and
So when did you join your mom in America?
I came here 14, turning 15. I just came here right
So
away.
what was it like coming from Yemen to Africa, not speaking English, I assume?
No.
And all of a sudden showing up in America. Was it what you expected?
You would learn about America from movies. That's the thing. You know what I mean? Like when I watch movies and stuff, all I saw was like New York City, like Las Vegas. You were kind of shocked at first because it doesn't look like the movies.
Was that the first time in your life that you felt safe when you came to America?
I felt more stable. And I also felt excited to digging into the opportunities of what it means to be in America. And I knew like this is the land where everything can be possible. So I came in excited as well.
Were you always a funny guy? Were you funny as a kid in Yemen and Ethiopia?
Less funny in Ethiopia because when your mom abandons you, you tend to be quiet.
A lot of comedians use comedy to cover up their pain and their anxiety and their stress.
I mean, it is a defense mechanism. I think I was funny from a very young age. I remember being like 3 years old and watching Mr. Bean. I would do an impression to my family and they thought it was like a spot on impression and they laughed a lot. And I remember like, oh, I could get everybody's attention and create joy out of humor.
Are there comedians in Yemen?
You could be like a comedy actor. You could be like a TV host or whatever. But there are options to be funny. When I started stand-up, I was the only comedian that I can find. I typed in Yemeni stand-up comedian. Eddie Izzard showed up. He's a comedian from Britain. Big deal. It was ironic to me because apparently he was born in Aden, Yemen, because his father might have been like an ambassador or whatever. Uh-huh. It's like there's no Yemeni comedian. The only thing that showed up is a British guy.
When you remember the stand-up act you saw, the comedian you saw and you say, I can do that, or I want to do that.
I'll watch Conan every night. And then one day he had a stand-up comedian on and it was Jim Gaffigan. And I remember thinking, oh, that feels like a kindred spirit. Like I feel like that guy. That was the first time I saw stand-up and I loved it. I was like, whatever that is that's how I feel inside. Funny enough, I did meet Gaffigan, I think a year and a half ago or maybe a year ago. And I told him that story and I was like, hey man, you're the reason I'm a stand-up comedian. And he said, I'm sorry about that.
You watch Conan, you're in high school, you're learning English.
Yep.
You're not even fluent in English yet. And you say to your Yemeni mother who sacrificed and immigrated to America to make a better life for her children, I'm going to go be a stand-up comic.
At that point, that would have been insane for me to say that. I had the etiquettes to wait till I was 22.
And what did she say when you told her? Did she understand what you wanted to do? Was she encouraging it?
She said, you can have your hobbies. Just make sure, you go to school and get a degree and all that stuff. And then she saw me live one day. She was like surprised. She was like, oh, I don't really, you're actually good at this. She said, you're a beast. She said these words, which is funny because she heard the host say that.
Right.
So she repeated the word you're.
That's funny. Growing up in Yemen, moving to Ethiopia, separated from a family, eventually coming here as a teenager, not knowing any English, trying to fit in.
trying to beat the winter of Minnesota. It's a lot of. That's probably the hardest part of my life was the winter.
Yeah, I mean, coming from Africa and a desert in Yemen, and then going to the icicles of Minnesota, I guess that's got to be tough too.
Unbelievable. I'm still getting used to it.
How did all of that influence your comedy?
You ever travel somewhere overseas and then you kind of see everything that's kind of wrong with the place? I can point out what's odd easier because I didn't come from here.
Now, you won a local contest in Minneapolis, and you ended up making your TV debut on Kevin Hart's show, Heart of the City. What was it like working with Kevin Hart, getting on television in America?
It was a dream come true. I remember I used to watch the same show that I got on and thinking, I would love to be on that show. Then one day I went to a place called the House of Comedy. I did a set there, and the GM at the time said, "Hey, Ali, Kevin Hart is going to have auditions for Heart of the City." They had 3 different nights of auditions. We did 5-minute auditions, and then I didn't hear back until like 3 months later. I get a call from one of the producers and actually the creator of the show, Joey Wills. And then Joey said, "You're on the show."
Tell me about your character, Joe Freedom.
Joe Freedom, it kind of spiraled. His influence kind of like the 2016 election, Trump, which, by the way, I liked him as a TV guy.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun to watch him affect 12 people. But when he affects the whole world, that ain't so fun, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's replaced those 12 people with states, and he just states.
He's actually fired states. He's fired New York.
Yeah, he did.
He's fired California.
It's so weird to see a TV host run the country.
So what is this Joe Freedom? What do you do?
Joe Freedom, I guess, when that happened, like all the rhetoric that came from the Trump campaign, like the anti-Mexican, anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim thing was just, it was getting a little too much, and I was trying to find a way to just find humor within it. Then I thought of a character who's basically Trump, but he's in a brown body, and his name is Joe Freedom, and he's an illegal immigrant who's so scared about being deported that he decided to try to fit in. So he's so he hides in plain sight. So that's Joe Freedom.
Let's watch a clip.
And if I am elected, I will deport every terrorist in this city, starting with that one. Freedom power.
Freedom power.
Cops are okay.
Cops are okay.
I will change everything. Back to the good old days.
It's funny you say that, Joe Freedom's trying to fit in. Because we talk about that on my show a lot, because we say, why would an immigrant support Trump? What's the psychology behind it? Because he's really not for a group of people who are supporting him.
I can understand people voting for Trump the first round, which is basically like, hey, she seems like what we've used to, and I don't trust that. This guy seems new. Is he serious about what he's saying? To vote again, to me, that's unbelievable. If you're on the second, I would vote for a pillow on this election. Literally, if it was like a pillow versus Trump, I'll go with the pillow. We saw what happens when you put an insecure little man in office.
Talk about absurd things. What do you think about his Muslim ban?
I mean, ridiculous. It is so childish because it's like they try to play it off like it's not a Muslim ban, but we know, like, we see the news, you know what I mean? We see you say, I want to ban Muslims, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, it's not about Muslims. It's
of course.
Let's throw in Venezuela in there too.
You are in Minneapolis, ground zero of protests. That's where it happened, George Floyd. Do you feel positive to come out of all of this?
It's always positive, stained with some negativity. Great thing is people realizing their power. Like, we can go on the streets and demand justice, and the people have to listen. The government has to listen. It feels like there's another force at play who wants to dismiss these things or make it feel dangerous so it doesn't happen.
So you were involved with the George Floyd protests as well. Tell us about what your involvement was with that.
I've never really protested before.
This was your first protest ever?
Yeah. I went big,
What did you do as part of the protest?
The thing is about protest is if you've never been, you really don't know what the, etiquettes are. So I just showed up, and then I found opportunities to help them there. I was like, I see there's a lot of good and beautiful moments that are happening during the protest. There's a lot of peace and love that no one is capturing, and all I see on the news is about riots. So I thought there's an unfair coverage. But then when I saw that, then I was like, oh, an opportunity to help is to take photographs and showcase all the positive things that I see. So I started going to all the protests and taking pictures of the protests and posting it. So, and then a lot of people were like, oh, I don't see this in the news. I only saw the riots and whatnot. And when people just cover riots, it's a way to dismiss protests. And it's a really dangerous thing for, when you're trying to like have your voice heard about a serious matter.
And you also, besides that, you were involved in feeding the community during the protest?
So that came also from being at a protest. I was at a protest and I saw a friend of mine who is a comedian. Her name is Shea Webby. And Shea Webby is an African American resident of St. Paul. And she was there with a table giving out food for the community. And then I thought that's a great idea. When the looting started, a lot of the stores closed. I was like, oh, there's definitely a need. People are not getting the groceries. A lot of people don't have means to drive. And a lot of people don't even have money with like the pandemic and all that stuff. So I thought that's a good opportunity to help. So I went on my social media and I asked people to donate money so I can do runs for Shay. And then a lot of people donated. I ended up with like $2,000. It started with like 3 tables, and then we ended up with 3 giant containers, and we fed around 7,000 to 8,000 people. So
wow.
That was what gave me hope about riots and all the things that are happened, is people really just, like, when people are given the opportunity to do good, they will do good. They want to help.
You've also traveled to Dubai to work on a special with Comedy Central. How is that different, performing stand-up in the Middle East rather than in America?
Great question. Well, comedy is not just about language. You don't just have to know English to understand comedy. There's context, there's pop culture things, references and whatnot. So I thought it was definitely harder because I was talking to an audience of 1,000 people, but not all of them spoke English and not all of them kind of got our culture here.
You play another character, an Arab prince who's trying out comedy. Tell us a little bit about that.
That was just, I was in Dubai, and then I kind of got tired of being told what I can't say. They're like, oh, don't talk about Yemen, the war in Yemen, which is, kind of awful because I'm from Yemen and Dubai has a hand in the war there. On the plane, I was thinking about a character to make fun of my idea of what a prince is.
Let's watch a little bit about the Arab prince.
It smells like middle class in here. Disgusting. This one especially, this one.
What else have you been working on during the pandemic?
Well, stand-up is a little bit slow, so I've been shooting my own sketches, and I started a new podcast, a video and audio podcast called Does This Age Well? And I'm also doing some writing. I started a book that I'm going to be working on based on the first comedy album that I had called Happy to Be Here. So yeah, just keeping busy, trying to stay sane, trying to stay productive. Zoom Legend is one of my sketches that I've done. A lot of us had to do Zoom shows during the stay-at-home orders, and it wasn't the best. And I thought it'd be funny to do like a serious documentary on a Zoom comedian called Zoom Legend. And it's kind of like a Michael Jordan documentary where everybody is bigging up this guy who was a legend during the Zoom era. So that's it.
Let's watch a clip and see.
His comedy shows and open mic nights are reaching new audiences thanks to technology. Here's Maury Glover. Give it up to Ali Sultan!
I don't think they understand the level of contribution that I made. We're talking about the computer mic drop, that was me. The lag effect, that was me. Longest running Zoom show, that was me. 36 hours. 14 minutes of material. It's never been done before.
Yo, dude, come on. Are you sleeping, bro? Come on, man, we're only 36 hours deep. What are you doing, dude? Wake up, dude. I need you attentive. I need you with me. This is art. Did you turn off the video? Hey, man, disrespectful. By the way, I have your IP address. I want you to know that.
And finally, the show's about reaching your American dream. Tell me about what your American dreams are.
I would love the two Americas to combine and become one America, to be fair all across the board. That would be my American dream for America. I would love to see that, because it's so hard to feel good about, like, I personally am fine, right? I come from a different country, so I know my possibilities, I have my ambitions. I was taught to see outside of that one dark world. I know what exists, so I can go and seek it. Day to day, I'm happy, I'm okay. You know, I got a nice place, I have a car, I have things that I don't have if I lived in Yemen. And I have dreams that I can achieve. I can be a stand-up comedian. I would wish for America to just be like, you know, as great as it is for everybody. That way I can have a good time.
Ali Sultan, thank you very much for coming on. Good luck in your career.
Thank you.
Very funny guy. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.